Morning everybody, and welcome back to the beautiful British summer. Now I've been told that I've been moaning about the weather too much, so I am going to cut it out. Apart from this, just once, because this weather is And the first job we're on with today is actually the water tanks. And as you can see, they fit in here perfectly, just like the fuel tank on the other side. But it's coming down harder, so let's go inside and talk about it.
You love this weather.
So this is our water tank setup. We've gone for an 80 litre freshwater tank, an 18 litre wastewater tank and a 20 litre jerry can. And they are a little bit determined by the space that we've got, but also based on what we've had in the past and what we know works for us. And that's probably the biggest piece of advice I could give you with anything with camper builds, is to think about what matters to you and how you like to travel. So for example, a lot of people have said to us that an 18 litre wastewater tank just wouldn't work for them. But for us, because we move pretty much every day, finding somewhere to empty it isn't really a problem. Whereas if we wanted to park up on a campsite for a couple of weeks, it could become a bit of a pain in the bum. And the other thing is weight, because yes, it would be brilliant to have 500 litres of fresh water, but you're then carrying around half a tonne with you. So a little happy medium that we go for is we always carry a jerry can, because then it doesn't matter if we run out of water, we can just top it up. And we do love these Lifesaver jerry cans. Now they are expensive, but for us they're a 3-in-1 because they're our extra water supply. They also double up as your outdoor shower, and if you get stuck you can get drinking water out of them from a muddy puddle, or if like our electrics was to fail, which is what our drinking water depends on, we've always got this as a backup. So let's get on with making the brackets for them. Now I'm going to make them this week because John's been getting on with his TIG welding and I need to practice my MIG welding. I have done a little bit before. I did make the toilet box for the Land Rover. John? But this time I'm going to test myself because this needs to hold 100 kilos on bumpy roads.
Hey, what, Jessica? Not bad, not bad.
Boy.
You've been stealing my job.
Now I know you haven't seen him for a while, and I think that this warrants a proper shave.
Now the old general's gone in for some lunch, so I think it's about time I said a massive thank you to you lot, because last week when I was telling you about the old 18-volt die grinders, you told me that they do a 12-volt die grinder now, the old Milwaukee one. And I tell you what, I've been looking at them, and I have to say, they're pretty cool. After you told me about it, I had to get them, but she foolishly told me about the comment as well. I didn't even see it, so she only got herself to blame really. But little beauty. The only problem was when you were telling me about them, you were telling me that they do a straight one and a right angled one, so it was quite hard to decide which one to go for really. But never fear, I made up for it.
Got my guns back in the holsters, not in an open carry state now, are we?
She's done this about 5 times, and she's like... And if you've not watched our vlogs ever before,
No.
You'll think she's a weirdo, which she is, but it makes a bit more sense.
If you watch some of our older stuff, I promise.
We get quite a lot of comments, don't we, saying like...
You guys are cringy.
And then we watched a few more and now we love it, so yeah, thanks anyway.
Anyways.
But we've had quite a lot of comments anyway about Jess and her pronunciation of things, haven't we? So last week it was Silkaflex.
Oh, and apparently it's Cleco, not Cleco.
Yeah, but then also Schultz. So it seems like Jess likes putting L's in words.
I blame you for that one.
So spell this word for me.
Oh God.
B-O-W-J-O-B. How do you say that word?
Bow job.
How would you say it?
Oh jeez. Always lowers the bloody tone. Get out. But anyways, I've got my brackets made up, and we made them the same way as we showed you how we bent the alley angle last week, in that we've cut 45-degree angles out of them and then bent them up, so it's one continuous piece of tube. But a tip that I would give you is to make sure that you drill pilot holes in the bottom before you fit them, so that if any water does get in, it can drain out. So all I've got to do now is I've just got to tack up these braces, and then I've also got to make some straps that go over the tops of the tanks and hold them in. So I'll show you how I do that. So with this one, because I'm vertical and I don't want to weld up.
So all we want to do is just tack them up for now.
Yeah, so do I go like that or like that?
Yeah, just put some
on the
spots on the top.
Okay.
And then you see where you've done it there?
Yeah, it's bridged it.
Sometimes, like, if you do too big of a weld, what you can do is you can get your little die grinder and then just give it like that.
I just give up.
She's a beauty!
I blame you lot. You're always encouraging him. I've got absolutely no
I
hope.
blame you because you told me about the comments they sent.
He was even pretending that he didn't know it existed yesterday.
But technically, it's okay because you told me I wasn't allowed to. Now, I don't think it'll be long until they're bringing out a 12-volt version, which will be a lot smaller. But I wouldn't need 2 of them now, would I?
No, you would not.
Right. So you're going to sell the 18-volt one, are you? John!
We got 3. I couldn't decide whether I wanted an angle one or a straight one.
I give up. I've got nothing left. So to hold our tanks down, we have a nice simple design. It's a John special. Just use a bit of 20x3 flat bar, and what we need to do is fold it to the shape of our tank. So to bend your brackets, there's a few ways you can do it. First is, if you've got a John in your household and therefore have a tool for every job, you can just use your metal bender. The other way you can do it is in your vise. So just make sure that you use your set square first to make sure it's nice and straight and you don't fold it on the wonk. And then you just get your dead blow hammer and whack it over. And the other way, if you don't have a vise, is to just G-clamp it to your workpiece and whack it over. Now, this is quite easy because it's only 3mm steel, but if you're trying to do it with something thicker, you just need to apply some heat. So you could use one of those induction heaters that John showed you the other week, or just a blowtorch. Then cut the head off of an 8mm bolt and weld it to the end of the folded strap. And then you just pop your tank in and drop your straps over the top and tension them up with some nuts at the bottom. Now I am absolutely thrilled that I have made this because I haven't done much in the way of welding before, but it's been so much fun learning to do it. And like, I can't believe I've made this. So if you want to give it a go, can't recommend it highly enough. It's nowhere near as scary as people make it out to be. But one thing to know is that a huge part of how successful you'll be when you're welding is the setup of your welder. Now I'm spoiled because I've got John to set it up for me, but if you don't have that, one thing I will tell you is Artec make a MIG welder, just like the TIG welder that John's got, where it's a really easy setup. And all you have to do is put in your material thickness and away you go. They also do some try before you buy days, where you can go down and test them out, and they'll even give you some tips and stuff. So that might be worth checking out, because you could get yourself a John, but I guarantee that will cost you a lot more in the long run. Won't you look at that? Fits like a dream. So buzzing.
Now the next job on the Fabricating channel.
Need big guns like me, Johnny boy?
Now the next job on the Fabricating channel.
Do you need my help?
Stay on! So the next job on the Fabricating channel. I'll give up. We need to make a spare wheel carrier. beauty old mag drill. Now I've already done triple T on it, so she says I can't talk about it much, but brilliant little bit of kit for the workshop. Just like the old plasma cutter. So we got the first few brackets made up. Now this is the plate that we're going to mount to the original tow bar fitting, because we're never going to run a tow bar on it because the old girl is sluggish enough as it is without towing on it. And then what I'm going to do on that is I'm going to weld a bit of box section that will come up and swan neck off, and then I'll weld this plate here onto it, and then this is going to sit inside the spare wheel like that, and I'm just going to bolt through on the outside to secure it too. And then with the top plate, because I don't want to knot and bolt it because it'll be a pain to get off, I've got some old wheel nuts and I've spun them down in the lathe, and then I've bored a hole out in this plate, and then I've countersunk it as well, which then these wheel nuts drop in and then they sit flush with the plate. And then on the back side it sticks out, so then I can get a nice weld on the back. And then for the top hole I've used a wheel bolt. Now same again, I've spun it down in the lathe and I've also taken the head off of it, so then it fits in there nicely and I can get a nice clean weld on the back. And the reason I've gone with a bolt on the top is because when I lift the wheel up, I need to be able to have the bolt to centre the wheel and also hold the weight whilst I spin the nut on, so then I can get the bottom two bolts in as well.
Why would you look outside yourself when you have all of the world inside?
Let's do this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We've been busy this morning because she's all tacked up and fitted. I'm well impressed with it anyway, so we just got to give it the big weld in a bit. But I want to talk to you about, surprise, surprise, another tool. This little beauty. So this is a Bosch laser measurement tool, and what it does, a few different things, but one of the functions is if you want to measure a room, for example, you get the wall, you put that up against the wall, the laser goes across, bounces off the other wall, and it will tell you the distance between the whole thing. No tape measures or anything like that, so it really is a good bit of kit for that. But what I like to use it for the most is the actual spirit level in it, because obviously when I'm making brackets like that, I want it to be square with the vehicle. But if I do it with the spirit level, well, the floor's not square, the vehicle's not square, so it's a bit hard work to work out. Whereas what I do is I want that bracket to be square in line with that. So I'll set that up on there, and that's 89.2 degrees. And then I put it on there, and that's 89.1 degrees. So it's 0.1 of a degree out, which I'm more than happy with. But obviously when you're doing cabinets inside your van and things like that, it just comes in really handy anyway. So yeah, definitely recommend it. So we just got to give it the big weld now. And for that job, we need to bring in the General. So come in, General. Because I've been that impressed with the welding that she's done for these last few days that she is now the pro MIG welder, and you're going to weld this up.
Thanks, boy.
So yeah, well impressed.
Do you think he's trying to suck up?
I think she's forgiven me about the Milwaukee stuff. We need to order some more stuff.
No.
I think a rattler's coming next anyway.
Yeah, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens. Where your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens.
Well, she's looking sexy, but unfortunately it was a bit too good to be true. We're going to have to go to design plan B, which is to put a bit of angle iron across the back of it because it's got a little bit too much flex in it. Design plan B in place. Let's see how it goes this time. Well, design plan C is now in place. Unfortunately, with the angle, it was still a bit too flexy. So we've put in a bit of 40 by 20 box, and job is now a good. But John normally over-engineers everything, so that's why we wanted to try it with just the swan neck. But he's feeling a bit grumpy that his plans didn't work out. So to cheer him up, I've told him he can do a triple T.
So this week's Tool Talk Tuesday is inspired by one of you guys, because Jodie, the little eagle eye, spotted the little oven up here. She asked what it was for, so let me show you. So I know most of you are thinking, you know what it's for, Jess and her pies, but it's actually not. Now this is a household normal oven, but I don't use it for cooking food, I use it for cooking bolts. Because before we did camper vans, I was into motorbikes and doing them up and things like that, and a lot of the nuts and bolts on bikes are very unique, so you can't just go and replace them with normal bolts. So when they go rusty, I used to shot blast them, paint them, and stick them in this little bad boy to harden. A little tool I made for it is this plate here. So I just welded 4 legs to it, and it's a bit of steel plate with loads of different size holes drilled in it. So all I do is get my rusty bolts and stick them all in the holes, and then I can stick the whole plate in the shot blasting cabinet and clean them up. And then paint them.
and then I just stick it in here, switch her on, and away she goes. Now, it's especially good in winter when it doesn't dry as quick, but like I say, the best bit about it is it bakes it on so the bolts last a bit longer. So, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? But we've had another one in this week, so take it away, Ella.
Brilliant bit kit for the workshop.
And I noticed she had some bungees on the go there as well. She's a keeper, that one. So we're back on with the water tanks anyway. So we've pre-fitted them and we're starting to install some of the plumbing fittings. So we've got the water inlet in and we drill a hole in the floor, and then I've got to drill a hole in the side here to install the water filler neck. Now we're going with a black tank because obviously they look a lot better outside, but also if you don't know, when you've got a clear tank in direct sunlight, they produce algae, so a black tank it has to be. Now another reason I like to use clear tanks is because you can see the water level in them, whereas a black tank you can't. So on this we're having to install a water level gauge. So we're going with a prong type, it's a CBE brand, and the reason I don't like to install them because it's just another thing to go wrong really, but we'll see how it goes. And then for the waste tank, I like to use these. They're just 28mm caravan fittings because I feel they're a big enough bore size to let the water out quickly, but also not to get any blockages. And then for the waste valve itself, can't recommend these highly enough. So these are a US solid valve, and we get them from either Amazon or the US solid store themselves. And what I do is I rig up a little switch inside the cab. So I just press the switch and it opens the valve. So I don't have to get outside when it's raining or get mucky or anything like that. Now, these come in all different size threads, but the best thing I like about them is they hardly use any power to open or close the valve, and they use no power once they're open and closed. Now, you'd see me use it on the Defender and the Sprinter, but this valve I love the most because it's got a little screw on top, which means I can open or close it if there was a malfunction with the valve for any reason.
So from plumbing to electrics, because we've had a lot of questions from you guys about how we're running our electrics for this build. So we're really lucky with this truck because Pinsgowers are normally 24 volts. But because this was a fire truck, it's been set up to run on 12 volts. So it will make it just like wiring up a normal vehicle. And in terms of batteries, we've been really lucky to partner with Ecoworthy for this build. So we've got two 280 amp hour lithium batteries, which gives us 560 amp hours of power and means we're going to be able to try electric cooking for the first time. So these Ecoworthy batteries have Class A battery cells, which means that they can do more than 6,000 deep cycles and last more than 15 years. They also weigh 1/3 of the weight of an equivalent lead acid battery and take up a lot less space, which is just brilliant when you're building a camper. They also have a safe battery cell clamp design, which means they protect you from overcharge, over discharge and high temperature cutoff and all kinds of other things like that. Each battery is also going to give us 3.5 watt hours of power. And to recharge them, we're just going to cover the whole of the pop-top roof in solar panels, and we're also going to run a battery-to-battery charger. Now we're still designing that setup, so when we install it, we'll tell you all about it. But for me, I am so excited to be able to try having an induction cooktop, because we don't have to worry about have we got enough gas with us, or can we find somewhere to fill up the gas bottles if you use a tank. So I think that's going to be a game changer for us. But the biggest one for me that I'm most excited about is having an air fryer, because you guys all know how much I love going into all the different supermarkets when we go to different countries and trying all of their local foods, and it's just going to give me so much more flexibility with what I can cook while we're away. And to keep track of the power we're using, we're going to use this Ecoworthy touchable display battery monitor. It comes with a Hall sensor and it tells you your battery percentage, your current, your voltage and what capacity you've got, and it's 99% accurate. So Ecoworthy have given us a discount for you guys too. You'll get £25 off of the 280 amp hour battery if you use the code JessandJohn25 at the checkout, or £10 off the battery monitor, which also works with AGM batteries as well, if you use the code JessandJohn10 at the checkout. Unfortunately though, you can only use one of those codes and there's only one per person.
And now from electrics to the most important news of the day, because as we said last week, we're off to Van Love next week, and Guy, the organiser, shares my passion for fashion. And they've given us the ultimate honour of hosting the Croc Olympics. And the first event, croc wanging.
He said croc wanging, but no one is surprised. His mind went to that. So for this event, you need to wang your croc as far as you can. And that's how I like my crocs, as far away from me as possible. So let's bring out the athlete to demonstrate.
Now I've been testing out a few different techniques. First, shot put. Next, javelin. And my personal favourite, the willy wang.
No! Now there's 5 more events, but the athlete tells me that he can't be giving away all of his secrets. But as I know all too well, and you've probably guessed, he gets a little bit overexcited and never makes it the distance. But somehow, he always manages to come first. So we're going to leave you there for this week, but we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week, where we can hopefully get all of the bits we've made on Big Red for the final fix. We'll see you then. So today, we're testing the cameras out. We're gonna see if they go very in and out. Put your head on properly. You get £25 off the You've taken your Crocs out of shop.
Come on! but, whoa!
Note this foot. Yep. Need some muscle for that one.
Come on! Jess, I'm freezing here!
I can't! Okay, because I can see you there as well. Okay. Right. Whoo, sir. Let's go.